this is Shel C from Paper Rock TO Studio, and today I have a St. Patrick's Day tag for you. Um, it's Tag It Tuesday over at Cards and More by Sherry blog, and I always try to make a tag for this event every month, and I link my blog to her blog and so on and so forth. So if you like making altered tags, she always has a theme every month, and then you just make a tag and link it up. Pretty easy, pretty fun. So I started out with manila cardstock tag that I had made, cut out from a manila, not vanilla. Oh my gosh. Um, a folder, old folders, and I just cut them up into 7x3 and make my own little shipping tag things because I don't see buying them when I have all these leftover folders from a previous job. So that's what I do. And then I used some white gesso, and I used my brand new catalyst tool that I got for one of my birthday gifts, and I spread that on. That thing is pretty cool. It's like thick on one end and thin on the other, sort of like a credit card, but more flexible, made out of silicone. And that was on my wish list, and my friend got it for me for my birthday next week. Actually, my birthday will have passed by the time I post this. Anyway, this is, I believe, a Dina Wakely stencil, and my friend Peg gave it to me. She accidentally bought more than one because she liked them so much, and she asked me if I had it, and I said no. And she's like, oh, well, I'll send that to you. So she did, because that's just how she is. And it may become my favorite. I really like circles, and I really like this particular lines of circles of different sizes. Really cool. So all I'm doing is just using different colors of green and layering the circles over each other. And this last one that I've got here is a PBO Dyna paint, which is a shimmery paint, kind of translucent. And then I had lime green and grass green from Dilutions, and then I also mixed in some phthalo green from the Liquitex Basics paints, but I mixed it so that it wasn't as dark. And I just layered and layered until I was happy, and I'm very, very happy with that. I think it turned out really cool, so I'm going to keep using that stencil. So thank you, Peg. And the reason that I'm using all these greens is because the theme for this month for Tag It Tuesday is it's kind of a spring green color that's from the Pantone Colors for Spring. That's she's doing colors this time for theme, so it's kind of a springy green, and I'm drawing my little girl over the top of that background with a graphite pencil, and then I'm going to do a overall layer of acrylic paint, and this is Titan Buff. It's not white. It's kind of a light tan off-white color, and it's pretty opaque, and so I decided to use that to base my skin tone for my little leprechaun girl. Haven't been doing any girls lately, and so I have been watching people doing the 29 faces during February, and I decided I need to do more faces to practice. And I'm right, because I really needed to practice. This didn't turn out as quite as I had envisioned it. But then when does it ever turn out as you envision it? Everything changes as you go. Probably my hugest dissatisfaction is with that stupid hand. It's supposed to be, you know, holding the hat and kind of tipping the hat, but the hand looks wonky, and I don't know. I hate that hand. Really hate it. So now I'm mixing the grass green dilutions with the phthalo green and making a little bit a darker color, but not as dark as that dark green is. And using that as my base for the hat and her little vest that she's wearing. And I'm just trying to cover up the green underneath at this point so that I'll have, you know, the base colors where they need to be. And then this is some red. It's actually a Artist Loft acrylic for her hair. Then I got to give that a good dry before I start with my next layers. This does take quite a few layers, and that was my Posca pen to do the whites of her eyes because you can't have green eyeballs. Well, I mean, your irises can be green, but the rest of it has to be white, right? And I got out my new Neo Color 2s that I use for skin tones. I have them in a separate box than my other 10. And I bought those individually from Dick Blick because I just didn't have enough colors for skin tone. There was really just the salmon in my little tin that I bought of the Neo Colors. So I have all different colors there. If anybody wants to know the colors I use for different skin tones, I'd be happy to tell you. Just leave me a comment. And what I'm doing is I'm using different colors of the crayon, and I'm in the most cases here, I'm scribbling it on my paper and then picking it up with my brush. And my brush has diluted white acrylic paint on it. So as I'm doing this, I'm sealing in the Neo Color 2, which is a water-soluble type of a situation, with the acrylic paint, and also it helps it blend. And I just do layer after layer, adding the shadows, and then adding the highlights, and then adding the shadows again, adding the highlights, adding a little bit of pink cheeks, a little bit of red lips, back and forth, back and forth. And then now I'm redefining the features again with my graphite pencil. This is a soft-leaded graphite mechanical pencil. And I'm going to blend it using that Fantastics blender. I couldn't find my tortillion. And isn't that a weird name for a paper blender? A tortillion. Almost sounds like tortilla. Makes me hungry. I don't know. It's pretty crazy. Tortillion. But anyway, couldn't find it. So I decided to use a Fantastics, which has like kind of a hard foam tip. And that worked really well, so I might continue to use that as a blender. And then I'm going back in with more layers, more pink, more skin tone, more white, more pink, more skin tone, more white, until I'm satisfied. And that's, some people would think that's fussing, but that's just the way I like to do it for skin. It makes it more translucent and luminous looking. And I probably could have done even 10 more layers, but I decided I better not make a 5-hour video. Nobody would watch that. This is sped up to 4 times fast, in case you were wondering. So that's what makes me be able to make it a shorter video than it would be otherwise. More defining with the pencil, more blending. And this is just a process. Someday maybe I'll have a high definition webcam and I can show this up closer so that people can really see what I'm doing. I think that would be cool, but at this point I do not have money to buy new equipment, so maybe someday when I win the lottery, I don't know. You have to play to win. So now I'm doing the highlights and shadows on the vest, and I use that dark green Neo Color 2 water soluble crayon to kind of darken in the dark places, and then I blended that, and then now I've got a mixture of the green blended on my palette with a little bit of white, titanium white, to make the highlights so that you can see the collar a little bit more and where the split is in the vest. Otherwise it just looked like a big green blob. Doing the same thing with the hat. Darker on one side, lighter on the other, because the light is coming from the right hand side. That's stuff you have to think about. Where is the light coming from? Is it coming from the top, from the side? I don't know. That's how you determine where your highlights and shadows are. Pretending about the imaginary light. I don't know if it's the light of the sun. I don't know if it's the light of a lamp, but it's your imaginary light. So I made the band a little bit of a lighter green, just so that it stood out from the darker green. I was going to make it black, but then I thought it would be too harsh. Having all these other greenish tones, I didn't think that there was any place for black. So I didn't make the band black. And I'm just doing a little bit more highlights here. It's a process. Layers upon layers. her lips needed to be more red. They were too pink because the hair is such an orangey red, fiery red color. I felt that the lips needed to be something in that range as well. And then now I'm just doing some details on the hair with another layer of the red paint, and then I'll bring in some orange and some yellow to give it some highlights. She has long, curly, bright red hair because she's a leprechaun. Seems like all the leprechauns I see are boys. How come there's no girl leprechauns? I don't know. There must be somewhere. That's why I made one. I wonder where her gold is. She needs to turn it over so I can buy a better webcam. So I got out my black Posca pen and I started to do the pupils, and then I decided that it was actually too wide to do what the outlining that I wanted to do. I decided this was an illustration, not a painting, and so I decided to do a black outline, but I wanted a finer line than the fine line black Posca pen. So I have these new Pitt Artist brush pens, which are for inking up drawings, and so I got those out. And I'm using the S, which I believe is for small. I'm not sure. It's not the very finest one, but it's not very big. And I'm just redefining all the details, going around the edges of things with a little thin black line. The thin black line, yes. So my voice is a little weird. Sorry about that. It's, I'm sick again. Ugh, still hate that hand. Oh, what a terrible hand. It's awful. I think pretty much anyone who's learning to draw or paint would agree. Hands and feet, very difficult. I don't know why it is. The angle never seems right. They don't seem to be curved right. So you'll see what I do about it. You will see very soon what I do about that stupid hand. Now I've got my white Posca pen and I'm just adding in some very bright white highlights in places where the light is very brightest. So this little tag kind of kicks off my plan to do some fantasy art. This is fantasy since she's not a real person. And the Creative Arts Creative Arts Collaboration hashtag event is coming up starting on the 16th, which is tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow. So I'll have some fantasy art to share because the theme is love fantasy art. And I read fantasy books and I love fantasy stuff and I play fantasy video games. So there you have it. I'm very excited about that event. So I usually back my tags with colored cardstock, and I did that again. They always look really gross on the back. They got smeary paint on them, and plus I just like the idea of a border around it. So I punched out some little hearts. You remember I made flowers with hearts last time I did a tag. This time I made a 4-leaf clover, and I just put it right over the top of that ugly hand. That's how it goes. No more hand. And now I'm just adding some ribbons and tying them on with a gold cord to match the shiny gold paint that I used for the buckle and the buttons, which was a PBO paint. Very shimmery and shiny. And we're almost done. So thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share. That's all for me. Bye-bye.